This is CR, Coolest Reviews. Hey all you YouTubers out there, I'm your host, Rick Solano, and you're watching Coolest Reviews, where we put the views into reviews. In this week's video, we've set up a scavenger hunt for you. Find these images hidden throughout the video. Tonight we will be covering H.P. Lovecraft's The Shadow over Innsmouth. This is a cult classic in the sci-fi horror genre, beloved by so many existential horror fans. H.P. Lovecraft was born August 20th, 1890, and died March 15th, 1937. He grew up in Providence, Rhode Island, and was allergic to and afraid of all things in the sea. The Shadow over Innsmouth is one of the more solid H.P. Lovecraft stories, with a first-hand account of the action, putting us, the reader, in direct contact with the author, instead of a character reading in medieval text and nothing actually happening to him, except he translates a book, like in The Mound.
What? Action scene?
Yes, there's actual action. What? The chase scene. It counts. Lovecraft starts his story by elaborately painting a picture with words. A scene of a decaying, worm-eaten seaside town unfolds before us. We feel we are right there in that dilapidated town, about to fall into the salty sea. The sweet sound of lapping waves and gulls cawing overhead as their sharp shadows cut across the New England scene. We take in the delightful smell of rotting fish. Wait, what? Well, moving on. Our protagonist and author is a nameless person who writes about how some shit went down in this coastal town. And the Gov Mint sent submarines to torpedo under the coastline, well, hordes of government agents raid, and lots of arrests, prison camps, you know, the usual reaction to a cult of weirdos inhabiting the US. And then, inevitably, a big cover-up. Some newspapers want to get to the truth, but after a brief private meeting, they fold like a flimsy lawn chair. Our protagonist himself is banned from talking about the incident because he was there. The cover-up thing. And apparently our protagonist triggered the events that led to the demolition of the town. He writes as if we're supposed to know all this. H.P. Lovecraft creates an empathetic character right off the bat by giving him a difficult task, getting to the East Coast to visit relatives, with hardly any money. I mean, I can relate to this. Can you? He doesn't explain why he can't afford train fare, but we know he can't, 'cause it jumps to him at the train depot whining about the price. All off camera, of course. The first actual scene jumps right into the Ticketmaster's dialogue. I mean, he just starts talking. The Ticketmaster must not like this cheap little twerp, because he recommends him to the competition, which nobody likes because their bus is owned by a guy from Innsmouth. And everyone hates the people from this village because they are successful at commercial fishing and they themselves look and smell like fish. But he could save a penny or two and ride with the gross people. At this point, the Ticketmaster sees that he's losing our protagonist, so he tries to appeal to his sympathy. That the bus company isn't doing so well. They have no customers and need our protagonist's money. I think the Ticketmaster is a spy for the bus station or something, because not only does he recommend our protagonist, but he also knows and relays the entire bus schedule. Unprompted, by the way. At this point, I imagine our hero is staring bug-eyed at the man who just blasted a barrage of exposition into his face, being so he didn't bring up or express any interest in this alternative route. Yet. But before he lets on that he's decided to take the bus, he probes the Ticketmaster for more information. With an off-camera nudge, the Ticketmaster starts spouting once again, much to the chagrin of people in line. The lonely man spews the entire history of Innsmouth, so strap in for a story. No, really, he tells the entire history of the seaport town, interjecting his own mad libs, of course, in case you thought he might like the fish people, to make it clear what side he's on. He hates the Innsmouth people. Then, he actually explains why the protagonist never needs to talk, from the mouth of the old man himself.
And why is everybody so down on Innsmouth? Well, young fellow, you mustn't take too much stock in what people round here say. They're hard to get started, but once they do get started, they never let up. They've been telling things about Innsmouth, whispering 'em mostly, for the last 100 years, I guess. And I gather they're more scared than anything else. Some of the stories would make you laugh.
The old man spews his point of view for page after page, but luckily the city has a great backstory, equipped with a pirate named Captain Marsh. Yeah. He was a pirate, but met some mysterious people, then married into and started trading with deformed monstrosities, had alien-looking stuff, and hieroglyphics of fish people doing chores. Rumors of Captain Marsh selling his soul to the devil, and imps. Lots of imps. And the non-suspiciously named Devil's Reef. How should I describe... Well, here, straight from the old man.
You ought to hear, though, what some of the old-timers tell about the Black Reef off the coast. Devil's Reef, they call it. It's well above water a good part of the time, and never much below it. But at that, you could hardly call it an island.
His very long speech ends with,
That's why I wouldn't go at night if I were you. I've never been there, and I have no wish to go. But I guess a daytime trip couldn't hurt you, even though the people hereabouts will advise not to make it. If you're just sightseeing and looking for old-time stuff, Innsmouth ought to be quite a place for you.
In my opinion, this is all evidence that the Ticketmaster really hates the protagonist and is pulling some reverse psychology to get him to go to this dangerous place. And by old time, he must mean rotting and worm-eaten. And then the scene fades to black. That was some long exposition. His story has been great and all, but we have to get going. Leave the Ticketmaster, stretch our legs, and jump right into Innsmouth. Right? Right? No. The bus doesn't leave for a while, so we go to the library to study. Yes, study the history of Innsmouth. Yes, study Innsmouth history. We're sorry about this, folks. Really sorry. And we learn more about the old town. The mysterious gold, the jewelry, the tiaras. Lots of tiaras. After the action-packed and exciting library scene, we eventually get to Innsmouth, where he receives a tip where to find and seeks out the only person who will talk to him, because he's a raging alcoholic. Our competent protagonist procures the whiskey, even though this is prohibition, and walks by the old drunk brandishing his bottle. This is all it takes for the old man to follow and get wasted and tell the protagonist everything he wants to know. I mean, he doesn't hold back at all, without prompting, naturally. Once again, it's just one person talking. About the only clues as to why he goes on is he says, "I can tell ye don't believe me," so he has to prove himself? Or maybe he is out to get our nameless hero, like the Ticketmaster. because when he gets done relaying his story, he says that the town elders will now kill them both for what the old drunk has just told him. And what happens next? You'll just have to read the book. Now for good versus bad. There is a chase scene that adds excitement and suspense. He has to dart around and hide in the dilapidated cityscape, take chances to escape, all while these strange frog creatures in tiaras hop around looking for him. The way Lovecraft describes the fish-frog creatures adds solidity to the visuals, but is vague enough to add mystery. It paints a scary moonlit scene in a decaying, rotting, seafood-smelling atmosphere. Lovecraft sets up a great world with an ancient, under-ocean society. He develops a sense of an old culture who have been around for millennia. The story unfolds in a logical order and creates wonderful mystery. We get one piece of the puzzle at a time until we get the full story. Now for the bad. The whole thing felt distant. The protagonist was recalling and writing something that happened to him years ago, and even said that the hype around the events had died down, just to break the momentum or something. We don't get a sense of who the protagonist is. The point is driven home that he is taking the cheapest route, but why? We don't know his ambitions or attitudes in life. It feels like he's just a vessel to drive the plot, which brings me to a good thing real quick. The protagonist does drive the plot with his ambitions and actions. A flaw still being interjected in modern storytelling to this day. It feels like he spent heaps of time developing a background and basically just posts his notes on it, as if he planned to write a story later on. And that may be exactly what happened, because HPL wrote a letter to a friend saying that he didn't really like this story and that he probably wouldn't publish it. In conclusion, the story is clear with a concrete literary structure, and it has a great twist ending. It is a great sci-fi horror story to read on a stormy afternoon with a hot cup of cinnamon tea and the smell of a warm, crackling fire, or the burning taste of cheap whiskey and the glorious aroma of fish. You decide. What did you think? Was I too harsh in this one? Did you read the book? Will you now? What would you add? Did you find all the hidden images? Did you forget? Do you need to watch this again and look for them? Let me know in the comments below. You're watching Coolest Reviews. Be among the cool people and join the club. Administer a like, slam the subscribe button, chime that notification bell, and strap in for the fun. Come party with us at Coolest Reviews. I am out.